Ever since Riot released Arcane in collaboration with Netflix, I've heard a lot of people talking about how it really made them want to get into playing League of Legends, which is great for Riot. It's probably all part of the plan for them. But despite how good Arcane was, I think that most of the people who try and play League as a result of watching the show are going to be in for a pretty big shock. Because League of Legends is a MOBA, and MOBAs are not simple games. The barrier to entry to playing League of Legends is enormous. There's so much to learn about the game just to be able to play at an entry level, and it takes a lot of time and effort to actually learn all the stuff that a new player needs to know. But luckily for new players, League of Legends has a tutorial. The tutorial's split up into 3 stages, so let's just see what we're dealing with and look at stage 1, shall we?
Come out and die!
I load into stage 1 and okay, the towers are facing the wrong way. That's off to a good start, I guess. The game shows a little mouse icon if I stand still for long enough that is telling me to right click. That's how I move. Great, I've learned something. After a while of clicking around, it also tells me to right click on these minions. Sure. After I walk forward enough, Sion ults towards me, and for some reason, he just goes completely through me, which is not how that's supposed to work at all. The game then prompts me to use my abilities, but it doesn't actually tell me what any of them do. The Sion dies and has no death passive like he does in-game. I guess this is to try and not confuse new players with champions resurrecting themselves, but having interactions be different in the tutorial than how they are in-game is a questionable decision. They could have just not had Sion be in the tutorial. But anyway, after the Sion dies and doesn't get back up again, the game allows you to pick some other champion to try out. 2 of them are mages. 2 of them are attack damage melee champions. The difference between these isn't explained whatsoever, but hey, it's only the first part of the tutorial, so maybe the game gets round to it, right? It doesn't. The tutorial tells me a couple of other simple things, like it tells me not to stand under the tower, otherwise I take damage, but it mostly just leaves me to start destroying this tower. Once the tower's dead, it spawns 4 other bots on my team, and it tells me to destroy the enemy nexus. So me and my new friends, we go and destroy another tower. But wait, what's this? This doesn't look like a tower, and it isn't shooting me, but the game wants me to destroy it anyway. That's so weird. Now I, as someone who's played this game for many hours, knows that this is an inhibitor. Destroying it will spawn really tanky high damage minions in this lane to help me and my team push the lane faster. But as important to the game as this information actually is, this is not explained to the player a single time anywhere in any of the tutorials. In fact, the 4 different types of minions that can spawn don't even get a mention, because apparently that's just useless background information, I guess. Once you destroy this mysterious circle structure, you can destroy the Nexus. Luckily, the game actually told me about what this structure does, otherwise I would have been so lost, but anyway. This tutorial doesn't really tell the new player much. It tells them the absolute basics of the game, and even then it misses some stuff. And unfortunately, this is by far the most detailed stage of the tutorials. The other 2 stages are extremely bare bones, basically telling me next to nothing. Stage 2 puts me on Summoner's Rift and shows me that there are 3 separate lanes. It tells me to pick one, so I go and do that. I walk mid and one of the bots actually follows me here, so now there's 2 of us here. If you actually play League of Legends, you'll know that this is not how the game is played. Only one person goes mid, but we wouldn't want the tutorial to actually be similar to the real game, now would we? Then the game just lets you get on with it, sort of just go and kill minions and destroy towers until the game ends, and that's really all it tells you. There's some weird things going on in this tutorial, but it's a lot of stuff that a new player probably wouldn't notice. Like how the turret plating health bars aren't even, they're all messed up. And like how I killed this Annie bot once and it never came back to lane for the rest of the game. Although I guess it is sort of an authentic League of Legends experience if the mid laner just gets solo killed and leaves the game instantly, I guess. But yeah, this stage of the tutorial told me almost nothing. It just made me pick a lane and do basically what I did in stage 1. If I was a new player, I would have learned almost nothing. Stage 3 is almost identical to stage 2. But it tells me to open the shop and buy an item at the start of the round. It also tells me that last hitting minions and champions gets me gold. It also tells me like how to recall and spend money. That's it. It doesn't even tell me how to navigate the shop, it just tells me that it's there and that I can open it. This is an extremely important game mechanic. Buying items is like the whole way you get stronger than your opponent, and it's not even explained a little bit. It's summed up with 2 sentences of explanation. The difference between AP and AD, not explained. When to itemize defensive items is not explained. What mythic items do is not explained. The only thing it does is tell me that I can open the shop and spend money. In the grand scheme of things, this tutorial, as well as the other 2 stages, tell the player almost nothing. There's so many important things that are completely ignored. What's an inhibitor? What is the difference between AD and AP? What are tank items for? What about champion roles like tanks, mages, supports, assassins, etc.?
Oh, look at the class, look at the moves!
What are they and how do I tell the difference between them? What about the entire role of the jungler and the jungle camps that he farms all game? What about those? Where are the tutorials to teach new players what any of this means? The game uses a role system to queue you up for ranked games, but it doesn't even make an attempt to explain those 5 roles to the players in its tutorial. Riot probably wanted their tutorials to be simple, because having a very complex, in-depth tutorial can overwhelm and intimidate a player and make them not want to play at all. But unfortunately, if your game is complex, then your tutorial has to be complex too. The new player experience to League of Legends is made worse by having a simplistic tutorial, not better. Because if you give the new player all the resources they need to learn the game within the game's client, then yeah, sure, they might be intimidated by it at first, but at least they know exactly where to go to learn about the game, and they don't have to go searching online for third-party resources to learn from. And even with a super in-depth tutorial, there'd still be a ton of stuff that you could leave out. Stuff about minion wave management and macro and all that. This can still be the job of the YouTube coaches and the stat websites that want to teach you to be just that much better at the game. But things as simple as the shop and the roles that you play, this shouldn't be up to other people to teach. Riot should be teaching you these things. Because there's no point roping in millions of new players into your game with a cool Netflix series if they're only going to play for 25 minutes before they realise that the game is just too confusing for them and that they're lost. Another idea I had is giving League of Legends champion-specific tutorials similar to what some fighting games do. Like in Guilty Gear, you can go to a specific character and get a guide on what their kit does and some basic combos and stuff. League could have this too. This is what their abilities do. This is their basic build idea. This is how to do a basic damage rotation in a fight. Stuff like this. There are a lot of champions in the game, so doing this for all of them would be an extremely long process. But even just doing it for 10 or 20 of the popular beginner-friendly champions in the game would be a godsend for a new player who doesn't have any idea what's going on. If you make a complex game, you need complex tutorials to go along with it. The jungle role needs its own fleshed out tutorial, and so does the build paths and playstyles of all of the archetypes of all of the champions. And that's a bare minimum. And maybe if all that happened, the new players that Arcane fished in would actually stick around for a while instead of loading up the game and being completely bewildered by it. I just hope that in future other games learn from this. Learn from Riot's mistakes. If you're going to make a complicated game, your tutorial needs to be complicated alongside it. Thanks for watching.